Sword of the Ages is kind of unique. Sword of the Ages is an artifact that costs 6 mana to cast. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap and sacrifice Sword of the Ages and any number of creatures you control. This artifact deals X damage to any target, where X is the total power of the creatures sacrificed this way. Then exile this artifact and those creature cards. That's pretty wild. So if you sacrifice 4 2/2s, you would deal 8 damage with this thing. If you sacked 2 Colossus of Sardias with Sword of the Ages, you would deal 18 damage. That's pretty good. That's probably a sound strategy. You'd probably also want some Mishra's Workshops though. Good thing those are super available. Joking aside, this card is pretty cool. It was so good, in fact, it got banned in August of 1994, which is before formats existed. It was unbanned in April of 1996 though, and just being on the ban list doesn't actually make a card good. Ali from Cairo was unrestricted at the same time. Time Vault also got unbanned during that announcement as well. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, I really like Sword of the Ages. It's not super powerful, but you could do some really fun and funny things with this card. They also built in some guardrails. I guess they were really concerned about you getting those creatures back. That's kind of funny. Interestingly, the way it's worded, even on the original card, the creatures sacked would go to the graveyard first, so anything that would trigger off of that would still trigger before the creature got exiled. That's kind of funny. This is an interesting card. It's kind of like Super Fling, which, that's fucking hilarious. But this is a pretty old card. There is an alternative to it though. Soul Blast is a similar effect, but you do need red mana for it. Plus, it didn't come out until Champions of Kamigawa. Anyway, Sword of the Ages is pretty fucking cool, and even reasonably strong. It's definitely not top tier, but you could probably get away with Sword of the Ages in old school. Play it with some carnivorous plants, and I guess Juggernaut? I don't know, I haven't thought too much about it, but there's probably something there, maybe. It is really funny this card ever got banned, though. I don't ever think it was, ban-worthy, if I'm being honest. There might be some kind of, funny combos you could do with it, but they would be, slow as fuck, right? Honestly, it's likely that the best use for this is, a high-end finisher in an aggro deck as, a plan B in case the opponent gets their defenses up before you can rush them out. I doubt it was really strong enough to be ban-worthy back in the day, but I guess I don't know that. This is such a cool fucking card, but there isn't really too much to say about it. Fuck. Guess I'll have to talk about Ring of Immortals. Ring of Immortals is nothing like Sword of the Ages, except for the similar naming convention, and they both tap to activate. Ring of Immortals costs 5 mana to cast, and you can pay 3 mana and tap the Ring of Immortals to counter, target, interrupt, or enchantment. Can only counter spells which target a permanent under your control. Finally, a simple solution to the scourge of Paralyze. So, Ring of Immortals is interesting because it really sucks, but it used to suck even more. Ring of Immortals benefited greatly from the collapse of interrupts, similar to Avoid Fate. Now these cards can counter stuff like Disenchant and Unsummon. Back in the day, however, these things could protect you basically from a Paralyze, or I guess, a Thought Lace? Most interrupts are counterspells, and even something like Fork can't be countered by this card because it only works if it's targeting a permanent under your control. So it doesn't fucking do anything if they counter your shit. It is better now because it can actually hit some things that might actually target things, but back then most of the things that targeted permanents were instants, just like they are now, and this couldn't do anything about it. It's kind of weird how bad this sucks because it is, a repeatable counterspell. That seems like it would be good, but it isn't good. That's kind of wild. This is probably going to be a short video. Oh well, I'm not going to talk about a third dumb card that I wish was better. Let's just move on to the art. Sword of the Ages was illustrated by Dan Frazier, and I'm a fan of this work. I think the black for the hilt is a super cool idea. It makes the sword feel less ordinary. The shining white blade also helps to push that kind of feeling about. I think it's fantastic. Also, the background is really funny. I like this art a lot. It is the only art to talk about for Sword of the Ages, though, as the card was originally printed in Legends and is on the reserved list, so it never got printed again. Big bummer right there. Ring of Immortals was illustrated by Melissa A. Benson, and this art is also fantastic. It kind of feels like this was just an exercise to prove that she could illustrate hands, but she knocked it out of the park. The shading is fantastic, and the lightning in the background is pretty sweet. The green with the vignette is an interesting choice. I don't hate it, I guess I'm just not sure what inspired it. The ring itself is very cool. It looks kind of like a mood ring. I like the kind of marbling effect on whatever that gem is supposed to be. I really like this art. Well, I like both of these arts, and both of these cards. I personally think Ring of Immortals sucks. It barely hits any targets, and even if it did hit good targets, it's on the field so your opponent can, see it. Just makes it awkward when they cast into this, because it means they either want you to counter it so they can get the spell they really want to cast through, or they want you to think that they are trying to bait you to get the spell they really want through, when the spell they really want through is the one they're casting into it. That makes sense, right? Yeah, I'm sure that made sense. Ring of Immortals just isn't that good, which is kind of unfortunate. But it is a really good thing that the card isn't, super good, because that would be really awful for the game. But it could have probably been a bit more playable, and the game would have survived. Sword of the Ages, however, I think is kind of perfect. Maybe the casting cost could be a little bit lower, but I think it's pretty fairly costed. It's just a fun card that ends games and does so in a spectacular fashion. I think it's a fun card, and I like fun cards. But yeah, that's all I have today. I'm curious what you think of these cards. Have you ever seen them, or better yet, did you use them back in the day? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, you can like the video if you liked it, you can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thank you for watching.